On June 24, 1950, the North Korean People's Army invaded South Korea, beginning the Korean War. On June 30th, President Harry Truman decided to defend South Korea with American ground forces as they were being defeated by the North. The Pentagon chose the 24th Division to deploy first, with the 21st Regiment being the first to go to South Korea. Due to a shortage of air transport, the regiment could only airlift a force comprising of less than a battalion to Busan. The remainder of the regiment and the rest of the division were to follow the battalion by sea transport later on. 1st Battalion was led by Lieutenant Colonel Charles Smith, a veteran of Pearl Harbor and Guadalcanal, who was in charge of the advanced force designated as Task Force Smith. It was poorly equipped and under strength, comprising of 2 companies instead of the normal 3 companies, contained half of a headquarters company, 2 75mm M20 recoilless rifles, 4 mortars, and a battery of 105mm Hausers. Most of the soldiers of the task force were teenagers with no combat experience and only 8 weeks of basic training. Only a third of the officers in the task force had combat experience from World War II, and only 1 in 6 enlisted soldiers had any combat experience. Many of them still volunteered to join the task force. These soldiers were equipped with only 120 rounds of ammunition and 2 days' worth of sea rations each. Task Force Smith airlifted into Busan and then traveled by rail and truck into a position north of Osan. Task Force Smith dug in and prepared to engage North Korean forces on July 4th on 2 hills straddling the road north of the village of Osan, 6 miles south of Suwon and about 25 miles south of Seoul. The ridges rose to 300 feet above the road, which provided visibility almost to the entire distance of Suwon. The battalion set up a 1-mile line over the ridges. There they waited to meet the advancing North Korean forces. The forces was placed along the road with the infantry formations on the 2 hills, 5 of the howitzers 1 mile behind the infantry, and the 6th with its 6 heat shell positions halfway between the infantry and the other 5 field artillery pieces. Heavy rain made air support impossible, so Smith and Lieutenant Colonel Miller Perry pre-registered the artillery battery in the hope that it would be just as effective. The heavy machine guns and bazookas of A Battery, along with a volunteer crew, were sent forward to reinforce the infantry. At around 0730 on July 5th, Task Force Smith spotted a column of 8 North Korean T-34-85 tanks of the 107th Tank Regiment heading south toward them. The North Korean forces driving south from Seoul, pursuing retreating South Korean forces. At 1600 hours on July 5th, the task force opened fire on a column of 33 of these tanks. Due to a lack of modern anti-tank weapons, the task force could only destroy 4 T-34s as the North Korean tank column continued south. 2 regiments of North Korean infantry then attacked Task Force Smith both frontally and around its flanks. Task Force Smith was able to hold off the North Korean infantry for 6 hours, but was forced to withdraw, suffering heavy casualties. During the Battle of Osan, Task Force Smith suffered casualties of 60 killed, 21 wounded, and 80 captured out of a total strength of 540 men. 250 men returned to the American lines before nightfall, with about 150 more of the force killed, wounded, or missing. Most of the other stragglers found their way into American lines over the next several days. The last stragglers from 2nd Platoon B Company reached Chokan 5 days later, only 30 minutes ahead of the North Korean advancing army. Upon the initial count, Task Force Smith had suffered 20 KIA, 130 wounded in action or missing in action, and around 36 captured. After the end of the war, however, the figures were revised to 60 dead, 21 wounded, and 82 captured, 32 of whom died in captivity by the North Koreans. The casualty count accounted for 40% of Task Force Smith's total force. The remainder of the 21st Infantry arrived at Chochi-1 by July 7th. Chochi-1 was located along one of 2 roads of the Kum River at Taejon. The remnants of Task Force Smith joined the regiment on July 8th. 1st and 3rd Battalions repelled the North Korean advance until July 12th. Although the task force was badly defeated, Task Force Smith accomplished its mission of delaying the North Korean force of over 5,000 men and 36 tanks from advancing for several hours. The defeats also highlighted the weakness in America's outdated equipment, preparedness, and experience in fighting the North Koreans. The North Koreans proceeded to occupy territory all around South Korea, but Task Force Smith's delaying action ensured that reinforcements would have time to prepare to liberate the territories in South Korea. During the battles, the 24th Infantry Division's 34th Regiment set up at Pyeongtaek, 15 miles to the south. Over the next month, the 24th Division would fight numerous engagements to delay the North Korean forces with similar results at the battles of Pyeongtaek and Taejon. But the North Koreans would be defeated at the Battle of Pusan Perimeter, but these battles are stories for another video. The U.S. troops advancing northward during the Pusan breakout offensive would later discover a series of shallow graves containing the bodies of several soldiers of the 24th Infantry Division. All of them had been shot in the back of their heads with their hands bound behind their backs with communications wires. Did you know about Task Force Smith and America's first engagement in the Korean War before this video? Write in the comments, and thank you for watching.